All right, guys. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to take the time to sit here and go through the new Ossiarch Bonereapers Battletome and their new updates, and just create, a new tier list of what I think is where the units sit currently with their new reworks. Now, this isn't going to include the new models that have just came out because obviously there haven't been enough testing and they haven't been around for long enough. But I feel like most of us OBR players or most OBR players in general, you've probably used pretty much all of these units in this, in this tier list to date. So most people have these models, they'll have them lying around. They might not have the new ones. Maybe you're not interested in getting the new ones. That's absolutely fine. I've just been building my OBR over the last couple of months and now being hit with a whole new range of models. I'm all OBR'd out right now. I've kind of hit my budgets on everything, but I'm still looking to pick up a few pieces here and there. But I really want to do some testing, and so I'm really utilizing TTS just to kind of see which models I like, what I don't want, and I'm really going to utilize that a bit more going forward. But I thought we'd start with the tier list. We might as well jump right in. So if we start with, we'll go first with the big boy, Katakros, Mortek of the Necropolis. Now, this guy is fantastic. He's almost an auto-include. Now, with the way they've restructured things, he doesn't have his 18-inch bubble anymore. You don't have to be within 12 inches of heroes anymore. So your access to doing your Relentless Disciplines RDP points and giving them out is structured completely differently now. But he does give you the most. He gives you 10. No one else gives you close to that as of yet. And he also got a points drop. So what I find with him is that he is S tier. He is strong. He's 20 wounds on a 3-up save, on a 6-up ward, can make him 5-up ward. And with an all-out defense, he's a 2-up on a 5-up. 20 wounds. Crazy strong. And now he's worth 10 control score. He used to be 5. So if you give him a 5-up ward, he'll be worth 13 control score on objectives. Because now his passive is anytime someone uses a Relentless Discipline point, any unit that receives one gains +3 control score. Now, I think the secret with a lot of these new lists and with his new passive ability is that you're going to be able to pick and choose any unit on the board to have more control score than the opponent. So getting objectives is going to be easier board wide because you don't have to be within 18 of him anymore, which is great. But you're going to have to be spending more RDP to do so. So you need to be understanding and managing your RDP nicely, especially with his double strike ability where you're spending a big chunk of RDP to have things have double strike or fight twice, which is really strong, especially if you use it in the right moment at the right time. It can be very, very, very potent. So it's great that he has these abilities now. One I really like though is his ability to turn off commands for units within enemy units within 18 of him. On a 3-up, those units can no longer issue commands, and it's any hero phase, and you can do it to as many units within 18 of him because it does not specify once per turn any hero phase. It just says any hero phase. Pick an enemy unit within 18 inches and visible. On a 3-up, no commands, which I think is crazy strong if you have him in the right position. But yeah, I think he's S tier. Liege-Kavalos Xantos. He's a tough one. I'm struggling to put him into A tier because he's just so low wounds and he's worth a lot of points now. He's 220 points. In summary, Cavalry is dog poo for OBR now, unless you take Liege-Kavalos Xantos. Now your cavalry are just running around trying to get objectives and be annoying. They're no longer your damage dealers. They're no longer your something that's going to hit hard and actually get you where you need to be to do damage. The only way you're going to do that now is your Kavalos Death Riders need a supporting hero to turn them on, to make them a bit stronger, to make them that +1 damage on charge. You cast the spells to give them plus crit 2 hits on 6s, and you can stack that buff and potentially have your riders have crit 2 hits on 5-ups. And then with Archer Kavalos, they have +1 damage again. So that you can make them stronger than what they were previously, but now you're investing not just you have to take a Arch Kavalos Santos just to make your Death Riders useful. So now it's, even though the Death Riders points drop to 150 from 200, right? So you're 50 points saving, but now you're forced to take a 220 point model to make them useful. So effectively, it's actually now 150 plus 220 is how much you need minimum, which is 370 points. So you need 370 points just to make your Death Riders what they were before. And they're still not as strong because you still need to cast a spell to make them the crit 2 hits as well. One cool thing about Archleaf Xantos is that he does have a once per game, everything within combat range has Strike Last, every enemy unit in combat range, which is cool. You can kind of gotcha mechanic that people can forget. So that is one thing that is quite cool. And he does supply 7 RDP. So he's your second highest generator of RDP outside of Katakros. So that's very nice to bear in mind. So if you don't run Katakros and you run him and a bunch of horses, and maybe the other hero, which he's not on here. You're not just the normal Kavalos Santos, the normal hero, the non-unique version. And you can run a couple of them for every squad of Death Riders. And he doesn't give +1 damage, sadly. But he gives them a bit more other buffs. Like he gives them +1 to hit on the charge. He adds 2 inches to their wedge formation tactic, where they can charge, immediately do D3 mortals twice to a unit if he's with them, and then retreat out without taking any damage themselves and move up to 12 inches away. So it gives them a lot more mobility, a lot more flexibility in that area. So if Archie Calasantos, he's only good if you're taking the Death Riders with them. Death Riders, I think, are C tier now. I don't think they're even B tier anymore. I think they're just C tier, maybe even D tier. I think they're really bad. But I put them C tier just because they're the only thing that has really high base mobility. And if you do take them in the right situation with Kavalos Santos, then they're pretty good. Moving on, Bone Shaper. Bone Shaper's decent. Now they've changed it to have a base war scroll similar to the Scourge Garian one, where you can spend a CP, bring back half a unit, half strength unit of either your Mortek Guard or your Mortek Triaxes. So you can pick one or the other. But his points went up 30 points or 40 points, so he's now 140 from 100. But you still have access to the Scourge of Garian 1-4 now if you're not running Triaxes. The new Archer units. So if you're not running those, you're just running Mortek Guard, I encourage you to take the soggy Mortis and Bone Shaper because he's only 100 points and he only brings back Mortek Guard. And if that's all you're running, that's all you need. And everything else is the same. So save yourself the 40 points, take the base one. Still a great hero, nice and cheap. 100 points is your cheapest hero you have access to right now. So I think maybe even S tier depending on the list you're building, but he's not strong enough to be an S tier. But A tier just purely based on points and list building for your regiments, because usually you're probably either going to be 2-drop or 5-drop, and he'll definitely be one of the heroes that you're always taking. Auto includes. So does he go S tier? Possibly, potentially. Mortis and Osso factor, again, he's strong, not the best. He's a bit better now with the crawler, because he can give now Mortek crawlers as well, rend and buff everything around him. Is he an auto include? I don't think so. Again, RDP generation on these foot heroes is next to nothing. Like they're 2 and 3, so you're never going to really want to be running them for RDP generation. What is also affected? I would put him in B tier. He's only useful if you're taking a crawler. I guess giving Morgas an extra rend is nice, but do they really need it? They're base 2 rend and anti-monster +1 rend. Do they really need another rend? They already slap so hard. Do you really need to invest another 130 points, or I think it is now 140 points he went up to? Yeah, I don't know. Don't think so. Soulmason, great, great, great. I really love Soulmason. I am even potentially saying S tier just for the strike first ability. Strike first is so strong. It really is going to be dependent on your list, but I think no matter what list you're running, having access to a strike first spell is absolutely lovely. So I would be chucking him in S tier. I think if you can afford him and you can grab him, take him. I can't see why you wouldn't, because you are traditionally a melee focused army, and having first strike is phenomenal because you're going to be able to combo out. So if you can give your Archai a reinforced Archai, strike first, charge in, and you're running Arch-Kavalos Xantos with a reinforced squad of Death Riders, right? You're going bang, bang, bang with 3 big units. It's pretty insane. It's pretty cool. Even if you're not doing that and you just go Mortis and Soul Reaper, buff the Morgus like a first strike, and you've got, you know, Necropolis Stalkers or Immortis Guard in combat, or even just a not reinforced squad of Mortek Guard, it's nice to be able to just go hit hard with the Morgus Harbingers straight away and fight again normally with something else. I think it's a really strong ability because you are predominantly a melee focused army and you're wanting to be taking advantage and whittling down combat as fast as possible. Especially because your durability is gone now that you don't have the extra +1 saves from Katakros like you used to dish out. Soul Reaper, B tier. He's okay. He's not the best. He could even be C tier. He's worth 140 points as well now, so he's very expensive. He's okay in combat because he has a lot of debuffs that he can dish out and you know um, make things a little bit harder to kill while he's in combat with him. But he's very fragile himself. He's a 1-cast wizard. Are you going to be auto including him? No, I wouldn't be. Fok Mortarian, B tier. Um, he's okay. Nothing super fancy about him. I'd probably say similar to Mortals Unexpected. Depends on the list you're going, depending on what you want. I'd be interested to see what other people think of that. He could even be C tier. I don't see him anymore in lists. He didn't get buffed enough to make him much worth it. So I don't think so. Arkan the Black. This is a very interesting model. I ran him in a list just the other day, and I didn't feel like he was very impactful at all. I know his War Scroll got buffed. I know he's a lot stronger. I know he has the potential to remove any unit on the battlefield with 8 withering points with his new Curse of Years. He's a 3-up save, 14 wounds. It's nice. It's 440 points though. He can have up to 9 attacks on his champion attack profile now, and it does have a lot of rend, and it does do 3 damage, and it is quite slappy, but he didn't do much damage for me. And I even buffed him to max 8 attack. I gave him 8 attacks on his champion weapon, swung in, everything whiffed, everything missed. Like, he did 3 damage to a group of Kurnoths, and I'm sitting there for 440 points, and then he just died on the punchback. 440 points, is that really worth it? And Katakros would have lived in that situation for an extra 60 points. Katakros would have lived and probably hit harder because of his once per game fight, his fighting ability. He's only good if you want him to be going into a heavy spell casting list. If you're going to go spell casting and doing things, he's a good option. A tier, I don't know. Potentially. I think he's B tier. Personally, I think he's B tier because he's very selective and he's not an auto include in every list, and he's not going to buff a list automatically by putting him into one, right? Because he's worth so many points, and you're already taking Katakros, so that's nearly 1,000 points, right? You're not doing that. So you're leaning heavily into the spells, and the spells that you cast now aren't as strong as they used to be. Even though you do have a spell that you can cast multiple times, I think if you're going down that path, best person coming up next is Nagash. I think Nagash is just a better version of Arkan. Okay, he's worth a bit more points, an extra, 290 points on top. Sorry, 390 points on top. So it's a lot of extra points. Don't get me wrong. I do recognize that. But I think Nagash offers more. 9 spellcasting wizard can bring back an entire unit of whatever dies. A reinforced unit of Morghast Harbingers. Great. That's annoying. Or reinforced unit of Morghast Arkai. A nice tanky version of them. Great. You have a Gothizzar Harvester in there that's bringing back 1 Morghast Arkai every turn if you get lucky enough. I think the combo synergies there are a lot stronger. And having 9 casts, you can give multiple things. You have a Soulmason with Nagash, strike first on a reinforced unit of Morghast Arkai, or even Harbingers for the 3d6 charge, and just throw them into combat, right? And then you're giving him crit 2 hits on 5s, right? You can even do immolating fire on them, fully buff them with Nagash, throw them in as a death spile. Every model that dies, they deal mortal wounds back from the immolating flames buff. And when they die, bring them back again and do the same thing the next turn. I mean, Morghast Harbingers, 4 of them, 3s and 2s, Ren 2, 3 damage each, is going to absolutely annihilate a lot of things. 3 attacks each as well. I'm not sure if I mentioned that. With strike first. Right? That's pretty crazy. Pretty strong. And then you just sprinkle in a bunch of little Mortek Guard to go around just be annoying on objectives and be tanky, and some Necropolis Stalkers for some horde clearing. And the Harbingers are there to just run in and crunch something. And then you got the Gothizzar Harvester in case the Harbingers live with 1, 2, or 3 models, right? You can just once per game at the end of the turn immediately bring a model back for free. Not on a dice roll, just bring one back. Great, that's awesome, right? And if you kill enough units and you're rolling 4-ups at the end of the turn, at the start of the turn, got the other side brings back, gets the full again. You do the same thing next turn. Keep bringing one back, and then the unit dies. You bring the whole unit back on the cash, and then you do the same thing again next day. So, if you can bring back 2 Morghast Harbinger models with Gothizzar Harvester throughout the game, 5 battle rounds, and then you're also bringing back, and that your whole unit's dying, and you're bringing back a whole unit of them again with Nagash. That's crazy strong. That's a lot. I think that's super powerful, and there's a lot of and it's just better than Arkan. Yeah. Immortis Guard, I'm not happy with them. I don't like them. I think they're B tier. They're nothing what they used to be. They no longer good. All they do is they get into combat. They hit the same as they used to. Sure, they're pretty 3 attacks each, 3s and 3s, rend 1, 2 damage. Nice. You're not complaining about that. And they're a 3-up save, even better, with a potential 5-up ward. Great. So they can be 2s and 5, 2 up, 5-up, which is huge, super tanky. They're good, but their passive ability now is turns off abilities on a weapon profile. So you can just stop the anti-charge ability or stop their crit 2 hits on a unit. So once per turn, any combat phase. So it doesn't matter if you run 4 of them, you're only going to get one option to do them. So I guess you can run a reinforced squad of them just for the durability. You'd be taking them, not necessarily for their damage or their, you used to take them just really for their passive ability to give heroes +1 ward save. So then heroes are 4-up wards. And that used to make Katakros an absolute monster. But now you can't do that. I just felt I ran them one day in a game recently, and they just wouldn't know any. I was using them to go in, and I just think there's better things you can take for 170 points. They need to have a points reduction. I think if they drop them to 150, they're worth it. 160 potentially even worth it, but definitely 150. I think then you can start considering to run more of them. But at 170 and their passive, their ability on their war scroll is dog poo. There's better things you can do with your points. I think there's better things you can do with it. Morghast Arkai, yeah, S tier. Morghast Harbingers, I'll put them up in S tier. We don't need to talk. We've been talking about them a lot. They're your punching bags. They're your ones that are going to clean up stuff. Mortek Guard, A tier. They're good. They put the Soggy War Scroll on them now. So now anytime an attack ability targets them or a friendly Ossiarch Bonereaper units within their combat range, -1 to the Ren characteristic of that attack. That's awesome. Now it counts for shooting, it counts for combat phase. Shooting phase was your weakest time because you had nothing to do in that period. Now you can. So they're great and they're cheap, 110 points. If you really want the soggy ones, the Scourge of Goran ones dropped by 10. So if you have 100 points to squeeze something in, now you can. Yeah, I think they're great. I think they're solid. I think they're fine. They did get rid of their crit 2 hits, but again, you can give them crit 2 hits if you really want to. They were never there for damage, even though I used to, give them +1 attack characteristic, and they'd have the crit 2 hits, and the reinforced squad with 61 attacks and crit 2 hits. They used to actually do quite a bit of damage, especially when you have the anti-charge on them and they've been charged and now they're buffed, and Rend 1. 3s and 4s, Rend 1 damage, 61 attacks, crit 2 hits. It's a lot, but they don't have the crit 2 hits anymore. So a lot of the theme here is that we're missing a lot of damage. Necropolis Stalkers, I like them. I actually think they're really good. I think they're a lot better than the Immortis Guard. Points wise, 140, great. 4 wounds, 4 up save they are now. And 6 up ward, obviously. But they're 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, Rend 2, 1 damage, and they're a horde clear ability now. So once per turn, any combat phase, you can activate their ability, roll a number of dice equal to the amount of models in that unit, and if there's 3 or more models, for every 5 up, it's a mortal wound. Fantastic. You put these behind your Mortek Guard as a second layer, or even if you want, you can throw them in the front lane. Send them into like a big blob of, nowadays you're seeing these big reinforced squads of 20 models, more, 20 plus models. Throw them in, 20 dice, 5 ups, mortal wounds. You're doing on average at least anywhere from around 6 mortal wounds there. You know, 6 to 8 mortal wounds just on that ability, let alone their damage. And because it's Rend 2 with a big volume of attacks, especially if you reinforce them, 24 attacks, 3s and 3s, Rend 2, 1 damage, you're going to be doing up to anywhere from 15 to 20 damage with the Rend 2. You can buff them up so much where they can be 2s and 2s if you really need to do something to kill something completely. So yeah, great. Terror Cohort, they're awesome too. Are they auto include? I don't think so. They could be A tier just because of the points that they're at and what you get from them, their mobility, their shenanigans you can do with them. A tier or B tier? They're definitely not S tier. A tier or B tier? I wouldn't run them every list. I don't think they're out impactful. They're now the new Kavalos Death Riders. But I think Kavalos Death Riders are better. They're a bit more tankier. They're a bit more mobility wise, probably just as good. I think they're just as good, to be honest. And there's more shenanigans you can do with the Death Riders. So I think I'm going to put them in B tier. But I think they're a bit cheaper than Death Riders, and you can probably do very similar kind of stuff. So I think that's why they're a bit higher than Death Riders. But damage wise, I think your Death Rider is going to do more. So they might even just be C tier. You're going to be picking between your Death Riders or your Terror Cohort now. They're only 10 points difference, so it just depends what you can squeeze in. Death Riders, 10-inch move with a potential 13-inch move. If you run Remorseless Conquerors as your battle tactic, they can run minimum 4 inches, so 14-inch move. Then they can, obviously, if you do make a charge without doing the run ability, you make the charge, they can then move another 10 inches out of that combat for free. So they're moving up 13 inches, charging 6 or 7, let's say, for example, and then they're moving another 10. So that's 23. That's nearly 30-inch move up on the board. Your Terracotta Hawk are never going to do that with that type of mobility. So I think for the 10 points with the 15 wounds in a squad on a 4-up with a potential 5-up ward, he's better than Terror Cohort, in my opinion. The new Gothizzar Harvester, B tier. He's not C tier. He's not terrible. I think he's very unique. He could even be C tier. I don't know. But I think B tier because we haven't trialed him enough. I think he's too much on the points. I think 200 is a bit too high for what he offers. I know I like how you can just automatically bring a unit back, but I think for 200 points is a bit much. I think he needs to drop to 180, maybe even 170. I think so personally. Until then, I'm not going to run him much. I'm going to give him a couple of more games to see how he goes. But my main thing with him, I think the only thing that makes him worth taking is if you can try and bring back some Morghast with him for free. And then he kind of pays for himself. Because once you bring back one Morghast, which are, 110 points, roughly, 130 points, sorry, 120 points, that brings him back down, quite a lot. If you bring one of those models back, you pay 200, but you're getting back 120 for free. So effectively, he's only costed you 80 points, if that makes sense. But you have to have that ability go off. Mortek Crawler, I think it's good. It's A tier. Strike Last is always nice. Having access to some nice big artillery is always good. It makes your opponent choose whether to sit back or to actually come into you. They're always going to be coming into you. And the new Bowtied Nexus, I don't really want to put it up on the thing because it's not a unit. You can always take it. So I'm just going to leave it up in the S tier because it's auto include. And it's great. You chuck that in the back corner, especially if you're running range now. You can just stop, by battle round, especially battle round 1 even, having a bubble where no one can actually charge into you or set up and deep strike near that your terrain feature changes the game drastically. And by the time you get to round 2, 3, and 4, it's increasing every time. It goes up to a max of 21. So, by battle round 4, 21 inches near it, that's practically half the board. And you kind of stop a lot of late game battle tactics from people. So if you lean into that OBR tradition of just squeezing the opponent and suffocating them and slowing the game down, your Bone-Tied Nexus is just going to complement that even more. Because if you deny them battle tactics early and then they get a breakthrough later in the game, you're now denying them again with your Bone-Tied Nexus saying, hang on a minute, you can't actually do that. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about my tier list. I think it's definitely going to take a bit of moving around. I think this is definitely going to move around a little bit more as we get along. And I've got a funny feeling that there's going to be some points reductions for a lot of these units, especially the Harvester, Immortis Guard, probably Arkan, probably Liege-Kavalos. I think we'll see points reductions on them. I think they're a bit high. And even your foot heroes being upwards of 140 to 150 points is a bit much. I think they do need to drop a little bit. I think that's a bit. You run those and you'll see your board has like 10 models on it, and you're like, oh, I can't actually get objectives. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one.